Hello there, Riderflex Nation. Steve Urban here with more career advice and job interviewing tips for you. And as a quick reminder, if you enjoy our podcast, please remember to subscribe to our channel and like the episodes. And on today's podcast, the time when my wife said it wasn't the right place for me anyway. I want to share this true story with you. I often go to my wife for input and advice, for her wisdom. She looks at things sometimes differently than I do. She comes at it from a different direction. She really helps me balance things out and a lot of times just helps me confirm what I'm already thinking. She's that type of partner. I love her so much for it. I hope the rest of you listening to this podcast have somebody in your lives that you can lean on like that. Here's a true story. We're at dinner. This is years ago. I was an executive and I was struggling at the time on how to communicate to the people I reported to how I was feeling and what my recommendations were going to be for the company. It just wasn't the type of atmosphere or culture where you could easily walk into a supervisor's office and say, hey, I'm feeling like this and here's what I think we should do. It just really wasn't that type of culture. And you had to be very careful about how you delivered that type of information because you could be seen as a non-team player or you could be looked at as negative, et cetera. And quite often people would just disappear if they were too open about their feedback, meaning they would get fired for being, for communicating certain things. And so it was one of those types of atmospheres and you had to be careful. And so I was nervous about it. We're at dinner. I'm telling my wife all this and I'm explaining to her how I'm feeling. And she just looks at me in this very calm manner and says, if you can't tell them how you're feeling and you don't feel comfortable providing your recommendations on what they should do, then that's not the right place for you anyway. And I said, well, what do you mean? Should I quit? And she goes, no, I'm not saying quit. She said, give your advice, of course, in a respectful manner, in an organized, respectful fashion, give your advice. And if they fire you for it or you get demoted or something happens, then it's not the right place for you. We'll go on to do something else. You'll find another job. Now, she said that in a very calm manner. I, of course, am worried, right? I'm thinking, well, how are we going to pay the mortgage? How are we going to make the car payments? Blah, 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 if I lose the job, right? But she was just very calm. And she emphasized, hey, if you aren't happy and you're miserable like this, then we need to find something else. That's not the right family. That's not the right home for you. And of course, she's right. And that's the reason for this podcast. If you're in an environment where you're constantly worried about providing feedback or you're miserable about certain aspects of your job and you can't communicate that to your boss without fear of getting fired or fear of being blacklisted, etc., then you're in the wrong place. You're in the wrong place anyway. So I wouldn't worry about it, okay? I definitely think you should communicate how you're feeling and provide your recommendations. Do it in a respectful manner. And hey, if you get fired, then it was meant to be. You go on to find a better home. And there is your Riderflex tip of the day. We truly hope you find our material helpful and entertaining. And while our podcast can be heard across most platforms, including iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, YouTube, and SoundCloud, you can become a supporter of this podcast by visiting our show on the platform Anchor FM. That's anchor.fm/Riderflex. You can also send us your questions or suggested topics for future episodes to the email address podcast@riderflex.com. Or drop us a voicemail at 888-964-5876, extension 710. Visit riderflex.com to learn more about us. Thanks so much for listening, folks, and have a great day.